Chapter 11. Silent Spring. Our back porch was a wonderful respite from the world. It was quite large, big enough for a picnic table to easily fit, and the roof was a green translucent plastic with ribs. We loved the space during a thunderstorm, and I'd sit with my back against the house feeling protected and listen to the thunder and rain. You were in the storm, yet you were dry. The rainwater ran down the ribs and poured off the roof in great streams. If it was warm with no lightning, we could race to the bushes and back for fun. Dad wouldn't let us do it if there was lightning. I was almost hit several times in my life and appreciated his concern. During a particularly hot lightning storm, I had to run home from the neighbors. Dad tried to pick me up in the driveway with a car, but I was spooked. I ran this way and then back towards the road and then back towards the blue spruce tree. He would drive forward and then reverse trying to catch me, but the lightning was so intense I didn't know which way to run. I was sure I was going to die. He must have been concerned too, or we would have just gone inside and gotten a beer. I made it up to the porch without being hit. He actually gave me a little hug when we met on the porch after, and we waited out the storm. Around that time but another night, I was running home pretty late after my neighbors had been out partying. Most times Fred would drive me home, but other times he would just walk down to the end of the driveway a bit and let me run the rest of the way home. This night was another run night, and I got halfway up the driveway. I spotted the aurora borealis in a perfect circle at the very top of the sky. This is not a huge ice ring around the moon that you find when searching the internet. There was no moon that night. I went in the house and got Dad up. I felt like this was the origins of a halo, a perfect circle of light set upon the earth. I knew it was an event that he would love to see, and he did appreciate me getting him up. We admired it for a long time, and even Mother got up. That's not right. Seeing the aurora borealis that night was an incredibly rare event. Dad continued watching the sky, and one night he and I shared a sunset looking west towards Dow Chemical in Midland. He called me out of the house, much to my dismay, which turned into delight. As the sun set that warm summer night, the colors in the sky were unnatural to the setting sun, but very natural to the chemical plant. The sky was thick with different hues of oranges and turquoises, purples and greens, and funny yellows. The colors wafted together like a great tragic weaving. It was something to behold, and paradoxically, you felt sick to your stomach realizing what mankind was doing. Dad said it wouldn't last much longer. People were starting to wake up and what the chemicals were doing to us. Earth Day was still several years away, but I guess he recognized the stirrings of change. There was a book written called Silent Spring by Rachel Carson in 1962. The book was slowly gaining traction in the academic community. It detailed the effects of DDT. We stopped the practice of spraying school children when they chased the sprayers in the fields, and we slowly realized how devastating DDT was on the eggshells and beaks of chickens. We pulled back on DDT but went full bore on other pesticides that were just as damaging. I'm pretty sure we haven't learned enough yet. I also saw lightning that resembled broken safety glass. Have you ever seen safety glass break? It will start in one spot and creep all over the rest of the glass. It even makes a noise as the cracks consume the pane of glass. It was the same with this lightning. It would start in the southwest corner of the sky and creep all over the sky, breaking into small, oddly shaped squares and then slowly fade. It sounded like an old man's knees. It was the most unusual sight, and I've never seen it again. Let's go sit and chat some more about my beloved back porch. One end was walled off with storage of lawn tools, a bucket of grain, different lubricants, my dad's Four Roses whiskey, and my favorite food, a crock of pickles. Oh, I loved my dad's pickles. I would sneak in there and pull the linen cloth off the top, pull the rock off the old dinner plate, dig out the plate, and then find a thick mat of what I learned was mold, lactobacillus. I could pull the mat of mold back and pick out a pickle, put the pickle in my mouth, trying not to drool, and return each part of the operation perfectly so Dad would not know I had stolen a pickle. Then minutes later, I would want to do it all over again. Jane hated it and would complain at me and make yuck faces. It might have had something to do with the other end of the storage unit. At the other end is where the cat Patches usually delivered her kittens. She would have the kittens on the storage area floor if there was a rag laying there, or in the workbench drawer. We took terrible care of cats and dogs. Horses got great care. Dogs and cats were expendable. Half or more of the kittens would perish within the first week, and Jane and I would be tasked with burying them. I hated this job, but Jane hated this job, and it probably scarred her. She would help dig the hole, but I started taking over the actual burying part so she could leave and return to the house. They were so little, and it was so hard to place the dirt upon their little bodies. Jane would pick the spot, and mostly picked a spot on a path, so from then on we would have to jump over their little burial ground. But I never made the association with the dead cats, and I loved the pickles. One night, my dad came home from work rather perky and announced we were grilling. Dad loved to grill, and I knew he had just bought a half of beef and had it in the freezer. Our neighbors had feeders and would finish us off a cow in a different manner than the beef for the open market. Nobody on the open market got to buy cuts of meat the size we ate. That night, Dad grilled each of us a great big T-bone steak. We made mashed potatoes, a salad, green beans, and an assortment of pickles, olives, breads, and butters. We sat down and Dad placed the biggest steak onto our plates. Mine hung off in all directions. We all settled in eating our steaks as we talked. He always told us stories of the day. Secretly, he would tell us the details of an accident or fire, and we would talk about what went wrong and who was going to pay. While we were eating that night, he announced that the American Heart Association has recommended we restrict our consumption of meat to a piece of meat the size of the palm of your hand. We started to laugh and couldn't stop laughing. We felt so sorry for the city kids that would now be getting even less meat.